Hi, everyone. This is Jennifer from the New Haven Free Public Library. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you are joining us in Facebook land, I just wanted to give you a heads up. Paige is running slightly late. He is on his way, but he asked me to start the video anyway, just so that everyone is not freaking out about, oh my goodness, where is Learn to Code? So Learn to Code will be starting in just a few minutes. Until then, I can tell you about some of the upcoming programs we have going on at the library. The big one is actually going to be next Saturday, which is the 4th of June. And we are having our Make to Sell Summer Showcase. This summer showcase is going to be featuring 7 of our Make to Sell cohort members. 6 of them are from the current cohort and 1 is from the previous cohort. And they are going to be at the library from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they are going to be selling the products that they have been working on creating, marketing, branding, and selling through our Make to Sell program. So again, that is 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Adams Main Library. It will be in the cafe. There are a number of them, I believe, will be able to take card. However, some may only take cash. So please be aware of that fact going into the Make to Sell summer showcase. I'm going to pull up the rest of our calendar now, if you bear with me for 1 second. Next Wednesday at 3 p.m., we are going to be having the 4th session of 6 on going global export workshops for small business owners. This is part of a 6-part series presented in conjunction with SCORE and the Small Business Association. And that will be for if you aspire to sell your products internationally. This program talks about what you need to know in order to sell your products and services, including some resources that are available to you as a small business owner. So again, that will be Wednesday, June 1st. On Friday, June 3rd, we are going to be doing a mitered square dishcloth with Sarasa Newsome. It is a mitered square is a knitting concept, and it uses mitered squares. It has a directional texture that allows for multicolored yarn and or stripes. And she's going to teach us the pattern and how to do it, and all materials will be provided. On Saturday, Paige just walked in. On Saturday, June 4th, we are going to be doing our Skillshare with paper flowers. You need me?
Oh, no, I thought you were talking to me.
Oh, no, I'm talking to Facebook.
Oh.
That's okay. On Saturday, June 4th, we're going to be doing Skillshare, where we're going to be making paper flowers. That is the same day as the Make to Sell Summer Showcase. So you can come in and do some shopping and make some paper flowers to bring home. We're doing an art wellness workshop on Tuesday, June 7th. It is going to be at 6 p.m. And in that art wellness workshop, participants are going to have an opportunity to engage in self-reflection and art making in a fun, upbeat experience. Registration is required for this program, but all materials will be provided. On Thursday, June 9th at 2:30, we are going to be doing corner to corner crochet. So corner to corner crochet, kind of like mitered squares, but also kind of different. Goes from one corner to the other rather than a cross back and forth. It is a crochet stitch rather than knit. An adult program that is going to be happening on June 9th at 6 p.m. is part 1 of a 2-part series, The Art of Filmmaking, which is cinematic techniques, film, and audio production. It is going to be taught by one of our old creative in residence, our former creative in residences. He's not actually old. Professor Chris Ward. He teaches at Connecticut University, and he's a fantastic photographer and filmmaker, and I have been happy to work with him many times. On June 15th, from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., we are going to be running a program titled Budgets and Boundaries, where Barb Nagel, who is a very good friend of mine, is going to be teaching with one of her friends about budgeting and how budgeting is important to those who are working in small business, but also setting boundaries for those budgets. I think that Paige is probably looking for the link, so I'm going to send it to him. All right, you should have it. And those are all of our events that are happening in the near future. Obviously, we also are having the rest of these Learn to Code classes. So let me just check and see if you are in Facebook land again. You can feel free to put comments in the comment section, obviously questions in the comment section, and I will be happy to pass them on to Paige. Even if you have questions after the session runs, you can still put questions in the comments and I will forward them. We check our comments regularly and we will forward them on to Paige for your questions to be answered. Paige, are you all set or do you need me? Okay. While I'm waiting for that to work, I also wanted to let everybody know that Paige does still have office hours on Monday evenings. So you can sign up for those through the library website. It is also, it's calendly.com/coder, I believe, or NHFPL coder. I will find out and I will put it in the chat. Promote to panelist, talk. All right, you should be able to share your screen with what you have. If you don't, let me know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, let me go ahead and share the screen. Oh, I need screen sharing enabled. It looks like. I do not.
All right, you should have it now.
All right. Let's see.
Beautiful.
Okay, great. Cool. Let me close this. Minimize that. All right. So first thing I'm gonna do is get the code opened up in the editor I've been using for this series, which again, I think I talked about it last time, but it's called Visual Studio Code. It's a really nice editor for getting started with programming. It's pretty simple and straightforward to use and to set up and download. So I highly recommend it if you, yeah, that's it actually. Thanks for sending that link. Yeah, so it's a really good code editor. Again, great for beginners. A lot of like YouTube videos and things like that on how to use it. I also know how to use it pretty well. So if you have any questions about it or anything like that, you can always join my office hours.
Which are also in the chat.
Nice, yes, also in the chat. Okay, so let me minimize this. Open up this. Okay, that's a little sneak preview, but for now, we're just gonna keep it with this. So I have the notes on my machine, I realized. And I can share them here on Zoom, but for now, but I'll post the final update at the end of the session. But what I'll try to do, well, yeah, if you're joining here or on Facebook or wherever, yeah, we'll just follow the notes on here. Usually I get them posted, but unfortunately there was an issue with my GitHub authentication and it expired. So sometimes it's kind of annoying, but it just happens. So I think that's what we're going to leave for now, which is fine. So normally we'd go here if you want to follow along in the notes, but today we're just going to stick to my
The link to get to the GitHub later on is also in the chat on Zoom, as well as in the comments on Facebook, if anybody wants to look at it later.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so once you get here, the notes will be separated by dates and folders. So yeah, should be easy to find. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So last time, what I had set up was basically just a folder with a notes file that you could find on GitHub. And then also an HTML file, which is basically what contains the JavaScript that we're writing to do the computer graphics. And this HTML file, the nice thing about it is what you can do is just, you can find it wherever you've downloaded it or set it up. And to actually load the document, if I just go to a browser, I mean, I could have done it in that window, but I just closed it. Just open a new browser window, and you can go to your file explorer and you just take the document. In this case, I was able to double click it, but you can also click and drag it as a tab and it'll load. So that's what I'm doing. That's how I'm getting the document to appear in the web browser. So I'm not going to any website or anything like that. So just so that you're clear as you follow along. And in my code editor, I'm going to open both of these. I'm going to open the notes and the code that we're going to work with. So this is why you'll see me with two things open. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and connect to my display here at the library, just in case someone comes in. Let's switch to that. All right, cool. Okay, so here we go. Let's see, I want to preview this, but maybe I can't because I need something installed. Oh, I'm just trying to do something with my notes that I usually, oh, here we go, that's what I want. Yeah, great, okay. Oh, no, you're fine, okay. Okay, so we're gonna basically follow these notes, but today's kind of I guess like a big, or not a turning point, but it's sort of big as far as our progress with graphics, because we're gonna try to, we're gonna try to animate, do some animation. So yeah, the way that that's gonna work is basically I'm gonna introduce some ideas around using functions to basically encapsulate, bite-sized tasks that we'd normally have to write several batches of code for. It's been acting kind of weird, the input. Yeah. No, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, just in case. Yeah, or are you for the graphics? Yeah, no, yeah, we're just doing computer graphics. Great. Yeah, do you have a laptop or?
I don't.
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, you can use that totally. Yeah, I can help you get started too. I mean, yeah, no problem. Or actually, yeah, if you don't mind helping him get set up.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Is this what's acting wonky?
No, I'm definitely good to go here. It definitely recognizes it. It was doing this last time too. I thought last time we used a different cable.
Mhm.
Um,
Technical difficulties happen. Let's try.
what I'm,
For short, so you have to move, but
yeah, that's okay. That's fine.
try,
I can move in.
try that one.
All right. Oh, it's not too bad. All right. No, it's okay.
It is kind of what it is at this point. You're back.
Oh, great. Cool.
So,
Um,
you want to get the visual?
yeah, just go to the GitHub, and what I'll do is I'll actually just fix it really quick. I'll fix the GitHub so you can follow along.
So you're gonna do, let me get that.
So 1 second while we address some in-house stuff here. This is kind of fun. I'm going to generate a new personal access token. Oh, geez, I have to do my password. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a new folder for you to go to on there. Oh, what's your name, by the way? Alec? Oh, Alex. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm about to upload another folder right now that I yeah, got. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna add a new token. Always fun. Something like that. No. Hub. Shoot. Sorry, I'm having a bit of technical. No, yeah, it would definitely be good if I had the notes uploaded. Right. Just bear with me. I am trying to upload the files because I realized you can't really follow along with the notes. But that's no, yeah. Everything is yeah, I think I have it now. Um, yeah, 1 second. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I just pushed the update. So if you reload that page, you should see a new folder, probably dated last week, 5/19. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, sorry about that. I had to re-authenticate a bunch of stuff. Okay, so what you can do is you can open the notes if you want to follow along with those. And then for the code that you'll edit, if you go back, you can download that file. The way to do that, you just click the HTML file, then it's going to open the code, and then at the top right, it should say like raw, which I'll actually do on my end too, so that anyone following along can kind of see that. Yeah, if you go to raw and then save as, so you'll save that file, and then what you have to do is you have to make sure it saves as a text, or sorry, an HTML file, .html. It'll try to save it as like a .text, I think, but just put .html at the end, and that'll make sure it works correctly. So I'll do the same thing on mine. If you just want to look at me doing it here too, you can just follow that, but either way. So I'm saving page as, and then I'm just going to do .html to my downloads folder like that. And then when I go to that folder, what I can do is I can just drag it up. I can actually, I think on your end, what you can do is just double click it and it'll try to open it in the browser. And that's what we want. So if I double click it, it'll just open in a window. And I can also click and drag it to like a tab in the browser. And that'll also work. It'll just load it up. Yeah, you got it. Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, so that's like basically the source of the code we're going to be adding. And we're just going to add the code from the notes and kind of work through like what the code is doing. And we'll also modify some of the code to do different things. Okay, but back to basically the flow for today's session in particular is going to be working with functions so that we can take care of tasks that would otherwise take basically triple or quadruple the amount of code, basically multiplying the code requirement for us to do more sophisticated things. And we can use the fact that functions have parameters to change the behavior of more repetitive tasks that we have to do. So this sounds abstract, but that's okay because we're going to get into it explicitly. So like I said, we can use functions to encapsulate portions of our code. And there's going to be, the reason we do that is because we're going to write code that maybe creates a graphic or something like that. And there's going to be processes that we're going to want to repeat once we've written that code, but we don't want to have to rewrite every bit of code. So yeah, we'll use functions. So last session, we were messing with these ideas of like graphics transforms. So that's like a transform in computer graphics would be like rotating or scaling, like magnifying something or shrinking. There's another concept called shearing. That's not super important. It's just different ways of messing with an image or a vector or something like that. So there's this piece of code that we can mess with called rotate 2D, which is basically just going to rotate it along some angle, our graphic. So I think the best way to kind of get started in visualizing this is actually checking out from the last session some of that code. So if you go to the previous folder that's on the GitHub page, and you just open the notes, and if you scroll all the way down, there's a portion of code there that we can just grab. It's like that last section, starting with the word space.add, and then, yeah, all the way down to that semicolon. You can just grab that, and what you're going to do is in our HTML file, we're just going to replace that part that says space.add. But what you'll need to do this is, I'm on my screen here, I'm using a text editor. So what you can do if you're working on this on desktop, you can open a text editor on the computer. I think on there might be a Notepad++. Start typing. Okay, there's this stuff. Okay, and then you'll just open the HTML file in this, except this time what it's going to do is just open the text for you to work with. So that's how you'll make changes to the code. Okay, so once you have that open, you can go ahead and paste in that content where you see the line that says space.add. So we're going to replace that portion all the way down to where there's that semicolon little section. We're just going to replace what we have on our clipboard. So it should be on like right after let form equal space.getForm. So basically, oh, I think this will also help too. Oh yeah, that's yeah. I was gonna say another thing once you paste it. Can you do view and then you can actually do
The new Haven Public Library is closing now. Computers will shut down.
You can see a line there. So what you can do is like, I'll try to call out line first. Yeah, but then just delete these two here. Yeah, so that's like the empty space we're replacing that. Yeah, perfect. And then what you can do is just save this. So once you save this change that we have here, you can reload the browser page, and you should have a design. So yeah, so we have a graphic. So that's what this code does. It generates this particular graphic. And so that's kind of what these notes are going off of, is this graphic. And the idea is that we're going to take a look at this code and try to understand what about it we could turn into functions for us to work with a little more clearly. Okay, so taking a look just at this code, we've been working with this library that makes working with graphics a lot easier. A library is going to be a collection of code that we're going to be able to use that abstracts or kind of simplifies some more complex code, or potentially just more code that we would have to write. So for something like graphics, if we wanted to just draw a line without using any libraries at all, like if we wanted to draw like this line on the screen, I mean, this would take like a lot of code to do that without a library, because we would have to find out, how do I like represent this portion of the screen? How do I find out like where it is? How do I find out where it is in the document? How do I then like manipulate these pixels, all that stuff? So this library that we're using, this is letting us just basically get rid of all of that kind of thinking. And so when we say something like form.stroke, this is actually interacting with this code library. So all this is doing is saying, hey, just draw a stroke based on these points in space, is basically how you think about this library. So the gist here is that this code sets up some points in space. So first thing it's setting up is this space.center point, which is literally just the point at the center of this space. So this white box is our space, and this is the center point. And then what it does is it sets up a point at the center of the space, but it adjusts it by an angle. And that angle is basically the angle of the center point in space divided by 2. So that sounds kind of sophisticated, but all this is saying is, hey, take the angle of this point from the origin. So everything is with respect to this origin. And it's just saying divide it by 2. And then that's this point. So rotate, divide by 2. And that's going to be this point right here. That's kind of how we're thinking of this. And that's why we get these lines that we do. Then what it's going to do is basically do these strokes. So it's drawing these colored lines, and then it's creating an arc between them. And then it's drawing that, and then it's drawing another line back across. So it's basically just drawing 2 lines. And if you notice, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment out this last bit of code here. So line 29 onward, I'm just going to comment that out. That just means that I'm going to make it ineffectual, like it's not going to do anything. And if I reload mine and save, you can kind of see what effect that has. So you don't have to do this on commenting, but you can just kind of get an idea of what just this first part of the code does. So you can see that effectively it's just drawing these lines and then these arcs to connect them together. And then what I do is I scale that back by 0.5. So I basically reduce the whole graphic by 0.5 on line 29 here. That's what the scale does. And then I just do everything again the same way. So if you compare the last 4 lines to the second group of 4 lines, they're the same code. They just change the color a little bit. And that's all. They're still doing stroke, stroke only, stroke, stroke only. So the idea here is basically that we have this code that's repeating, and it doesn't need to be so repetitive. We could probably do something to where we could just use that little portion of code multiple times by wrapping it in a function. So that's what we're going to try to do with these nodes here. So going back to the notes, there's this section in the notes for today's notes, sorry. There's this section of code at the very beginning that is this function. And I've called this function rotate stroke points. So what we're going to do is just copy this function And basically, this is going to use the same idea of transforming a graphic. But what it's going to do is it's just going to take all of that transformation code and put it into, put it into a single function. So we're going to take that code and we're going to put it right below, well, we'll put it right above here. I'm going to put it on line 18, right above the space.add. So I'm just going to put it right above there so that this function can be used inside of space.add. So breaking down what this function does, it basically gets a point from the point group. So points are just points on the canvas, like in this white space. They're just kind of arbitrary points that we set up. So, this could be anything. A point group just basically a collection of points. So it's as many points as I want to put in there, but it's just a useful way of putting points in space together. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up a variable to make a copy of this point. And then I'm rotating it by a certain number of radians, which are just rotational units that are convenient for representing like angular rotation or angular movement. And then I'm stroking, which means I'm just drawing an outline on the canvas of those points. And on the last line of that function, what I'm doing is I'm drawing an arc. So I'm basically drawing a line, and then what I'm doing is I'm drawing an arc back up from where I just came from, where I just rotated from. So thankfully, we don't really have to explain it too much because can just use our function. So now what I'm going to do is delete everything inside of the space.add except for that first line, which says let point group equal new group. So I'm going to keep that line because that's setting up our points, but I'm going to delete the rest. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the notes and I'm just going to basically use what is listed here for this code. So I'm just going to copy this. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to use this function to perform the same operations, but the code is going to look a lot simpler. It's going to be a lot more obvious to us what it's doing now that we can use these functions. Okay, so now what this code's doing is hopefully is a lot clearer. Basically, I don't know why I'm having so many white space issues. Probably because of I don't know what is going on. Maybe it just doesn't like that I'm doing that. Is that better? Yeah, I think that's better. Okay. Yeah, okay. So looking at this code now, maybe is a bit better. I don't want to update Zoom. Oh, dang. Wow. Okay. I thought Zoom just kicked me out. Anyway, so looking at this code now, hopefully it's a bit clearer. Basically, we have our little section that's actually drawing the graphics to the screen. And then all that does is sets up a group of points. So there's a point at the center. And then there's a point at the center that's been rotated by basically like by half. And then what we're going to do is just call this function, which is going to draw on our rotations each time and perform another rotation. So it's just super concise. Essentially, we just say, hey, here's the points. Here's how much to rotate it by, and here's the color I want you to use to draw the rotation. So let's take a look and see how this looks if I reload this code. Now it looks different because I did a different operation than what we were doing before. But let's just see basically if we can try different things with different rotations. So if I do, let's say 2/3, do a different color there, we can see basically that it's really easy to just keep getting different rotations each time. So if I want to add more to my graphic, the idea is that I can just keep calling this function repeatedly with different values. Each time that I want to do something, new. So let's say, example, I just want to move by 3 and then say I divide by 4 or something like that. So basically this graphic is starting to become pretty sophisticated looking with very little effort. Yeah, like I can just keep adding calls to this function over and over again. And I get new kind of fresh results. But yeah, in order to do that, all I have to do is change the parameters to the function. So the point I'm trying to get across here is that basically, if you have code that you're using repeatedly over and over again, if you put it inside of a function and you add parameters to change how the function works each time, you can achieve, yeah, more complex behavior. Yeah, relatively easily, like it doesn't take much effort. Okay, so that's all this gets us here, but we can take this concept a bit further with another idea. So coupling the use of functions with something called like iteration, because if you notice, we're still having to do a lot of repetition to get additional aspects of the graphic. So let's say I remove all these other calls to this function. I draw this one line. And let's say I'm going to draw this line again. But this time I'm going to say rotate by pi/2. And I'll say EF, E, something like that. And I draw down there. You know, in order to make basically all of these additions to my graphic, I have to call this function manually still each time I want to make a change. It's fine for the most part, but it's not exactly the most efficient way of working. We could probably find a better way to get results kind of faster without having to keep calling the function manually over and over again. So we can use this concept of iteration to basically project the function calls that we want over a multitude of points, like in succession. So that's what we're going to try to do. That's what this next section is about. So it's about using iteration. So what I'm going to do for this part is just basically, I'm going to copy this portion of code. So I'm going to use this technique to procedurally generate more curves from different points. And I'm just going to copy and paste it again and replace our whole sort of section to achieve that. So I'm going to go back to the canvas here. Just going to kind of dump this in. Fix that. Okay. So what I did is I just copied from the notes this, I think it's the third code section in total. Yeah, so I'm just replacing the whole space add portion with just this now. And once you get that in and you save it, we can kind of see what that's doing and we can kind of break it down and understand what's going on here. Okay, so this code is, I think, getting a little bit more sophisticated, but it's also not that much code, and we can break down the individual parts and kind of understand what's going on. So I still have my point group, which is basically just a collection of points. There's 2 points here. This time the points I'm working with is from the center of the screen. So 1 point at the very center of the screen. And then the next point has an X and a Y component. So this is X. And this is Y, like that. So you don't have to make those changes, but it's just to show you that this is the X component of the point, and this is the Y component. So X would be going left to right, and Y up and down. So you can see that basically the X component of the second point is just the full width of the screen. So what that means then is basically that the X component is like here. So it's X all the way to the right side, the full width. And then the Y component is just the center. It's at the center of the screen, but only the Y value. So that means that it's just basically this is Y. So it's at the very center. So if we take X and Y together, then there's 1 point here and 1 point here. So that's what's going on. And then this is where it gets a little bit sophisticated, but the core components are not too sophisticated. We're going to use this code to basically make an array, which is just a list of things that is 20 elements long or 20 items long. So basically we're saying, I want to make this new array called radians, and I want it to have 20 items. And what we want to do is basically with our graphic, we want to have 20 different line segments and 20 different arcs with our graphic. And that's what we want to mess with. So in order to do that efficiently, instead of basically calling our function 20 times manually, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create a list of 20 segments, and then I'm going to iterate over them and do something on every iteration. And that means instead of ending up with 200 lines of code, I only have 10 lines of code that I have to worry about. So let's take a look here. What I do is I fill that array, that list on line 30 with the same number, which is 2 pi divided by the length of the list. So really what I could say here is just, I could say 20. So it's 2 pi over 20. That's basically how much I want to rotate each time I perform this operation that I perform. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to comment out line 35 because I think it makes the graphic a little more confusing where I scale So if you just comment out line 35, put the 2 forward slashes in front of it, you'll get something that looks like this, which I think is hopefully makes the design a little bit clearer. And then, and by the way, I don't know if this was clear, but if you update your design, what you can do is just go to the browser and you can just refresh the page. And if it doesn't show up for you, there might be an error in it, which is kind of hard to diagnose sometimes. Okay, one way to do this, if you right click, this is you click inspect. So this is like, can be a quick way. Go to console. Just gonna basically, okay, yeah. So it's saying draw is not fine. Unexpected input on line 44. So if you go down, yeah, line 44, let's see. What is where? Oh, we're here. Okay. We're oh, okay. I see. So we're missing. Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. So you're just missing a brace. So just go one line up. And then add, yeah, perfect. So what happened was this draw function. I mean, this is so hard to see because it's editor, so I don't know if there's better editor on this computer, but you normally would not have to worry about that later. But yeah, I think now try saving that. And now reload the page. Okay, we're closer now. Something still is. Oh. That's bizarre. It was definitely working before. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, that's fine. No, it's still loading it correctly. Okay, so something is wrong with something else. Which is great. This happens sometimes. Can you try saving this? Oh, you did that. Yeah, try it. You could. It'd be hard to tell just because, like, you see in my editor, like, there's all this nice, like, highlighting. Yeah. I usually rely on that to, like, tell me if something's wrong. It's a little harder with the others. Okay, something is just like, let's try this. That's okay. It should be okay. Oh, God. You have to play it. So, yeah, to give context for that, this is like, basically what this is doing is like, it's actually about to do, it's like trying to do an animation, but we're only playing, we're not like actually animating anything over time. So it expects you to basically call this play after, but if we just say play, like, it doesn't make a difference. It'll just like be this, but it's actually constantly doing something in the background. It's like basically running this function over and over and over and over and over again, like indefinitely. So we're just saying play once for now, because we know it's like it's almost the And then what I did is I just commented out this line, just so you can more clear. Like, I mean, I think this design is just a little weird to understand, but this one is enough of that. Okay. So the gist of this design is that basically, with this array, which you can visualize in your head as like a list, kind of like a to-do list or something, a list of items. There's 20 items in there, and conveniently with our graphic, you could count. There are actually 20 segments in this wheel, and so what we're doing is basically we're going through this list, and on line 32 where it says radians dot for each, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, for each of these items in the array, I want you to do the following. So the following includes the lines all the way up to that brace with the parentheses and the semicolon. So this is what's called a lambda. It's kind of a weird concept, but this is the same thing as the function we had earlier. So when we had that function that was just called like rotate and stroke, this is the same exact idea, except we're just writing it really concisely. So you can think of this as just a really quick function, and it happens for each of the items in the array. So what we do inside of this function is we basically make a copy of the second point in the point group. So that's the point on the outside of the circle. And then what we do is we rotate the point group by X, and X is each item in the array. So we're going to go one by one through the array, and we're going to rotate by the increment that we created on line 30 where it says radians.fill. So we basically just filled up this list with like the same number 20 times. We just said, okay, put the number 2 pi over 20 into this list 20 times. And basically what that means is it's just kind of a convenient way of saying, I'm going to do the following 20 times. I'm going to rotate this point 20 times by this increment. And then I'm going to draw a line from the center all the way to the outside of this rotation. And then I'm going to draw an arc representing the rotation that I made. So I'm going to change the color of my arc, actually, but that's not really important. But the one thing that I am going to change that's going to change the way this displays pretty significantly. So what I want you to do is if on line 29, where it says let radians equal new array, we just had the number 20 in there. But what you can do is now change, because of the way this code is written, this is what makes this really powerful. You can change that to anything. So I'll change mine to like 60, for example, and I can save that, and I can reload this design, and it immediately reflects this update that required little to no code to kind of manifest whatsoever. So this is the really big advantage of this design, is like with the combination of using iterations and functions, we can very quickly scale out very sophisticated, complex designs. I could add 1,000 to this
Your
array.
attention, please. The library.
I mean,
closing
it looks really
in
bad,
30 minutes.
but
Computers will
doesn't
shut
really look that
down
good.
in 15 minutes. If you need a library card.
Actually, if I
or
change the
check
stroke
out
though,
materials, please visit the circulation desk shortly.
I bet it'll look okay.
We are open tomorrow
Oh,
at
no.
10 a.m. Friday, and we are closing early at 2
Try that.
p.m. Saturday and Monday,
Oh, wow.
the library will be closed because of the holiday weekend. We will then open on Tuesday at 10.
That actually looks pretty cool.
Thank you and enjoy the
Yes.
long weekend. Bye.
Yeah, so I did 1,000 here, And then what I did is I just changed the last two lines of the function to use decimal points for the stroke. So if you go to line 37, and if you just change that to be like, I think it's like 4 or something like that, or on line 37, it might be like, I don't remember what the number started out as. But if you change that to be a decimal point, then the lines will get really thin when it draws them. And then you can draw really, really thick, or you can draw a lot of lines and it'll show up like this. Yeah, let's. Oh yeah, so that one doesn't matter so much because that's on the outside, that's the arc. So if you change this one, yeah, try changing that one to point something. Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, nice. So I mean, this is basically the main point that I'm trying to illustrate with this is like, once you can start using iterations and functions, you can tweak these graphics to be really sophisticated very quickly. Like you can make really big changes to them that otherwise would take a lot of manual effort. Like you just really wouldn't be able to do as much very quickly without these kinds of concepts. This is kind of the end of the time. I've had so many technical difficulties. I wanted to get to the animation. But maybe what I can do is really quickly, I mean, especially since you're here, what I can show you really quick, if you just go to the notes again and scroll all the way down to the end, and you can just copy that whole chunk. And just again, as you're already used to doing, just replace that whole space.add section, but also replace the space.play, because this is that concept I was explaining where we're going to change the way it plays. So now instead of playing once, we're just going to play continuously because we're actually going to animate this. So go ahead and paste that in. And if you reload that, you could also get rid of the scale. Again, I mean, totally up to you. I'm going to comment out the scale because I think it's a little easier to understand what's going on, but if it's like on line 38, I think. And then what you can do is basically just mess with line 32. After you've commented out the scale. So mine looks like this after removing the scale. So it just kind of like, it doesn't mess with the arcs anymore. It just changes those line segments. Yeah, exactly. And so now what you can do is you can mess with line 32 again. So I'm going to take mine up to like 1,000. And then I'm also going to add that decimal point to the stroke. Now this actually should probably affect, yeah, my computer actually lags in trying to do this. So that 1,000 might be a bit much. I'm going to try like 400 or something. I mean, that's still quite a lot actually. 200. Yours is still, yeah, it's keeping up okay. Yeah, so I mean, this is basically the kind of building blocks to get to the point of animation with computer graphics. So using iteration, and in the notes, I kind of explain the last concept you kind of need to do this, which is frames. So for the next session, which is next week, I might do that and kind of explain that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If anything, hopefully can kind of use these notes and go through and yeah, try making some animations of your own, but they are not too hard to make. I mean, they get pretty sophisticated pretty quickly. And they're pretty enjoyable to make. Yeah, I wish I had gotten my notes together a little bit faster, but yeah, I got a little delayed. Okay, yeah, but that's it. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah, for anyone on Zoom, thanks for participating, and hope to see you next time for the final session. So.
All right, thank you everybody for joining with us. If you are on Facebook land, again, you can feel free to put the comments in, well, your questions in the comments, and I will pass them on even if you are watching this later. And that's it. Just as a follow-up, in case you didn't hear the announcement from the library, tomorrow the library will be open at 10, but we are closing at 2 for staff development. And then we will also be closed on Saturday and Monday for the Memorial Day holiday. We will reopen on Tuesday at 10 a.m. If anyone has any questions, you can visit the library website. It should be listed right at the top. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.